Hello, beautiful souls. My name is Jessie, and welcome back to another episode of Rewired to Inspire. This show where we'll dive into self-love, learn tangible ways to rewire the brain, and discovering your soul's purpose. The goal of Rewired to Inspire is to encourage listeners to begin doing the hard work, to get curious and open to maximizing your life. Our mindset shapes how we live. Depending on life events, traumas, and personal experiences, our mindsets are all vastly different. However, one thing we all have in common is the ability to rewire our mind, to change the narrative, and to pivot our lives. I hope you leave each episode with the belief that you are so worthy to live a life true to you. I look forward to chatting with you every single Tuesday and Thursday and helping you grow exponentially in all areas of your life. Without further ado, here's today's episode. Hello, you guys, and welcome back for another episode of Rewire to Inspire. I am your host, Jessie Brown, and I am pumped up today. Today marks 1 year since I began this podcasting journey. 1 year since I jumped on the mic for the first time and had so much unsureness of where this journey was gonna go. I can remember like it was yesterday, sitting down in my spare room, grabbing my little microphone and just saying, okay, I just need to record one episode. I just need to do it. I just need to hit record and just do the thing. And I remember feeling so scared, like I'm not publishing this. Like no one's ever gonna listen to this. What am I doing? And I just had so many of those thoughts in the back of my mind, and that voice inside of me was just like, just do it. And so the fact that I'm now on here with a brand new microphone, I will say, that just came in the mail today, which is like the best timing ever, but just sitting here for a moment and just coming back to my body for a moment and just being so thankful for everything that's happened thus far, patting myself on the back for continuing to show up even on the days that I don't want to, for going from posting periodically, sometimes it was weekly, sometimes it was 2 times it was a week, and then other times I was missing a couple weeks and then a month, and finally getting into that flow of being consistent for 20 weeks and then going up to 2 episodes a week, and just sitting here now and just being proud of myself and all the opportunities that are beginning to arise out of this journey. But I think sometimes we can lose sight of things in the beginning, and today's just a great reminder, even for myself, of remembering where I started. And Dwayne Johnson has this quote that he says in one of his speeches where he says, "I always keep my back up against the wall." And what he means by that is, even as he succeeds and he evolves and he does more movies and he gets more fame and fortune and whatever, he doesn't forget where he came from. He doesn't forget where his journey started. And so this is a great reminder and milestone for me to keep going and to be excited and proud of myself, but also keep my back up against the wall, because I remember what it was like when I first began this journey and how much fear I had with speaking and how much fear I had with what people were going to think, how much fear I had with the outcome. But the fact that I showed up and I did it anyways is really something that I want to instill that hope into you guys, and instill that just, it's so possible that if you put your mind to something, like genuinely put your heart to something, you can achieve it. You can achieve anything that you put your mind to. It's such a simple quote that we're taught from such a young age, but I think that we often lower our potential and lower our worth because we just become so stuck in cycles and in our comfort zones. And so I really think all that ties very well into what I want to talk about with you all today, which is how small goals can compound into massive movement, and how often we underestimate little actions, little 1% improvements, and how much we think that just missing one day doesn't matter, how we think that if we fail, then our life is over and we could never be successful, how if we do something wrong, then we're a failure. Or if our family thinks a certain thing about us, we also have to honor that and feel the same way. And so today's episode is really just about how our goals don't have to be these big, massive, life-changing whatever goals. And in fact, I'm going to dive into why that's actually detrimental, why setting these huge future-oriented goals is actually really harmful for us. And so the reason that this idea surfaced was because today is my 1 year and everything that I just mentioned, but also I decided 2 days ago with my partner and my mom to do a 90-day fitness challenge. 90 days where we are going to do 30 minutes of exercise a day. And that could mean going to play basketball. That could mean going to the gym. That could mean the other day my mom was getting stuff ready to yard sale. So she's like, does going up and down the stairs count? And I'm like, absolutely, because you have intention behind it. You're moving your body, you're lifting weights. And so we just decided to do this 90-day challenge to hold each other accountable, but also to prove to ourselves that we can do hard things. Because not gonna lie, I've been kind of inconsistent with going to the gym, and I've been feeling the weight of that literally as well as just mentally. And so I knew something needed to pivot. And so just starting with that framework really kind of kickstarted what I wanted to talk about with you guys today. Because even just in saying that 90-day challenge, my first initial thought was, holy smokes, I'm only on day 1. How am I gonna do another 89 days of this? And we start to become really, really overwhelmed. And then I remembered something that I learned in Atomic Habits. And I'm going to talk a lot about that book in today's podcast, as well as just some frameworks that James Clear teaches in that book. But a huge thing that I kept reminding myself of yesterday when I was at the gym is just get through this workout. Just get through your next set. Just get through the next thing. And so James Clear basically calls it the 2-minute rule. We focus so much on a year down the road, 90 days down the road, that we forget why we're doing something, but we also lose the confidence that we can achieve something. So the 2-minute rule is basically, if you can get through 2 minutes of doing something, you're gaining momentum. And with momentum, that is going to strive you and push you to keep going. So even with the gym, if you find yourself coming home from work and you're like, ugh, I'm tired, I don't want to go to the gym, you have all the excuses in the world. If you can apply the 2-minute rule of just getting dressed and getting in your vehicle and driving, beginning to drive, you're already on your way. So you're more than likely going to go and show up. And so that really inspired me to come on here and chat about with you guys, because I even noticed in myself, even though I'm very familiar with setting goals, very familiar with backtracking goals, but I still find myself looking at the bigger picture going, holy smokes, how am I going to accomplish this? And so the 2-minute rule is something that can so simply be implemented into our life. What are the things that you know you want to do, but you're not doing? And are you not doing them because you've told yourself that you can't, or because you won't? Or what is that reason? And if you can just implement that 2 minutes, even for me with podcasting, if I can just sit down, get my equipment set up, sit down and hit record, there's no part of me that is not going to just do the thing because I've already put it into motion. And so that is what I want to chat about with you all today. I want to dive deep into that and just give you some hope and some faith, because it's so common for us to fail at our goals and to lose that momentum, lose self-worth through setting goals. And we often strive away from it because we defeat ourselves and we feel like we're up against ourselves. So let's dive into how small goals can compound into massive movement. So I'm sure you guys have all heard the acronym before called SMART. It's basically an acronym for setting your goals. And I love this framework, but I kind of want to tweak it just a little bit because I do still think there are things within that can overwhelm us. And so the acronym for SMART, a SMART goal, the S stands for specific, the M stands for measurable, the A stands for attainable, the R stands for realistic, and the T stands for time bound. So how long something's going to take you. And so small goals help to make goals achievable, because the thing about setting our goals up for success is that when we have a goal and we're able to work backwards, we're able to fill in the blank of what needs to happen in that awkward space. And the more that we set small incremental goals that will then lead and pour into bigger goals, we're developing more and more self-belief. Because typically what happens is, and I'm going to use the gym a lot as an example today because I think it's something we can all resonate with. But when we say that we're going to go to the gym and then we don't, we are letting ourselves down, which I've chatted about before, which is then pouring into our self-belief. If we keep making promises to ourselves and keep breaking them, we're going to have no sense of trust or belief in ourselves. And so therefore, it's just going to become easier and easier to let ourselves off the hook. And so when we have small goals and that 2-minute rule of just, I'm going to show up to the gym today, you're already pushing yourself forward. You're already setting yourself up for success. But if you set a goal like, I want to lose 30 pounds. Okay, awesome. What does that look like for you? How are you going to achieve that? How long do you want to lose 30 pounds? What is that going to look like every day? What habits are going to have to change in order for that to happen? So you can even just see right there in that example of something we do all the time is we jump to the result and we skip the steps, and then we wonder why we fail. We wonder why we feel like crap when we miss. We wonder why it's so hard for it to be a lifestyle and not just a chapter. And that's because we're not setting ourselves up properly. And the second thing that was surfacing for me when I was brainstorming for today's episode is that the thing about small goals, and when we do them consistently, it not only creates momentum, because when we get that ball rolling and we have 1 day in, and then we have 2 days, and then we have 3 days, and then we have 4 days, and then at that point, it becomes more harmful to miss day 5 than it does to restart. Because the thought of restarting is more detrimental than just to keep going. Because once we get into a habit or into a goal, we've already took so many steps. So when we drop that or we fail or we don't show up, we're starting over at A or at square one. And when we do that, we're losing momentum. And so that's a whole other thing. But one thing that surfaced for me of why smaller goals. So instead of saying, I want to lose 30 pounds and just that, saying, I want to lose 5 pounds in 30 days. Okay, great. We can then backtrack that. So you have to lose roughly 1.25 pounds per week in order to hit that goal, which is about 0.2% or something like that a day. That seems so much more attainable than saying, I want to lose 5 pounds. Because when we have that just framework and end thing, we don't really have a clear path of how we're going to get there. It's like building a house. If you don't have a blueprint, you never know what you're going to build. You might start with a door, and then you might have a window, and then you might have a back deck, but it's not really making sense. And the reason for that is because you need a blueprint, and your goals in life is no different. And without that blueprint, without those small goals, you will never get the house. You will never get your results because you're not setting yourself up optimally to get there. And when we're able to set small goals and achieve them, okay, I showed up to the gym today, check. I showed up to the gym today, check. Oh, I'm down by 1.25 pounds this week, check. Awesome. Raising that momentum, raising that self-belief. You're going for it. And I think that in that time, your big goal might actually shift, which is kind of the cool thing. Because when I first started this podcast, I definitely didn't have the goal of having a global podcast making a difference on a global scale. My goal in the beginning was to help one person, which still is, because one person trickles and compounds into infinite others. However, my goal has changed over time, but that wouldn't have happened had I not just shown up, started recording, started posting, started doing the things. And so as we start to accomplish our smaller goals, and also what ties into this is that if you're feeling pulled to do something, you're likely feeling pulled because it's tapping into a part of you that knows that that's your purpose, that knows that that is your soul's calling, that knows that that is an alignment. And so when we just begin to show up and do little small things and accomplishing those small goals, you might realize things and have things come up, opportunities, whatever it is that you couldn't even fathom when you began your journey. But when we just set a huge goal and an end destination, we're really not allowing room for growth, for opportunities, for expansion, for challenging ourselves, for pivoting. We're having one outlook when we just think of one goal. And so that's how small goals can compound into massive movement. As I mentioned on my last podcast, I just recently joined Next Level University's team, which is a podcast that I 10 out of 10 highly recommend listening to. They truly are a large reason why I even have a podcast today and have honestly changed my life. But had I not started my podcast, developed my self-belief, got on group coaching, got around like-minded people, all those small goals that I was pulled to do, I wouldn't have been presented this opportunity to be on their team. So I want you to just have that in the back of your mind, to never underestimate the power of doing small things, specifically if they're in alignment, if they're speaking to you and it's something that you want to accomplish in your life. Which brings me into the next section of today's podcast, which is just some points that I was thinking of for when you're setting a goal. The next time you set a goal, I want you to ask yourself why you're setting the goal in your first place. Are you setting it because it's New Year's and New Year's new me? Are you setting it because your best friend just set a goal to go to the gym? Are you setting it because you read about goals in a book? Are you setting a goal because you watched a TikTok about it? What is your reason for why you're setting the goal? What is your motivation? What is your motivator for why you're doing it? If you're just saying you want to go to the gym just to go to the gym, that's great. But it's likely not going to stick and it's likely not going to be attainable long term. And the reason for that is because there's nothing motivating you other than maybe societal's pressures of you wanting to go. So what is your motivator? Is it to become healthy? Is it to create a new lifestyle? Maybe it is to lose some weight. And again, also shifting that to just being healthier. Maybe you want to get outside your comfort zone. Maybe it's something that you've been pulled of wanting to do for a long time. So asking yourself, what is your motivator? Why are you wanting to do it? Are you doing it for you? Are you doing it for somebody else? Is it a combination of both of those things? Because any motivator is great. If it pushes you to become the next best version of yourself, pushes you to get outside your comfort zone, pushes you to try something new that's going to evolve your life, then it doesn't matter what the motivator is, as long as it's unique to you and it strives you to get up and do the things when you really don't want to do them. My motivator for this podcast is remembering how big of impact I want to make. Remembering why I started in the first place. How passionate I am about rewiring our global's mindset on mental health, inner child work, and changing having a fixed mindset. If I didn't know what my mission was and what my reason was every time I jumped on the mic, there would really be no benefit or reason for me doing this. And so asking yourself why you're setting the goal in the first place. The second thing to ask yourself, how will I track my progress? How are you going to track the weight that you're losing every week? How are you going to track your podcast listens? How are you going to track your business numbers? How are you going to track the number of inventory you have to have? How are you going to track your numbers on social media? What is your system? If we want to be successful and optimize our potential, we need to have I'm sorry, my cat decided to come into the window and it kind of threw me off there for a second. I'm going to post the video so you can probably see her in the video. But you need to ask yourself, what is your motivator that's going to push you forward? What are those things that are going to encourage you to track your progress? Because when we're able to see progress written in front of us and we're able to actually see the data, it makes us go, wow, I've been so consistent, or whoa, I've really been letting myself down. Because the thing is our writing and data can't lie, especially if we are implementing that data. And so I incorporated something into my life, again, thanks to Next Level University, called PPT, which is Peak Performance Tracking. So every single day I go in and I track my habits. I have 9 habits. Soon I'm going to be going up to 12, and I track all of them. Did I read today? Did I take time for myself? Did I eat? Did I spend time on my podcast? Did I reach out to potentially one new person? I have different things that I have set up, and I can give myself a 0 or a 1. Those are the 2 options. And I can then see my overall percentage of how consistent I'm being, so I can see when I'm missing. That then tells me, okay, I can't be upset that my podcast listens were down because I missed this, this, and this. So it allows you to be held accountable. And maybe for you, that's creating a spreadsheet. Maybe that's writing on a whiteboard. Maybe that's a journal, but get it down on paper. We are over 40 times more likely to accomplish something when we put it on paper. Get it out of your head and onto paper so you can physically see something. You have something to look at, which is going to hold you accountable. If you just have thoughts going on in your head, that's great. Trust me, my mind does not turn off from the time I wake up to the time I'm trying to go to sleep. But because I have systems in place, it allows me to not have to worry about so many other things because I know that I have it tracked. So asking yourself, how are you going to track your progress? Where are you going to put that? How is that going to make you feel to see that? Because it feels really good to see that you've had a 100% day. It feels really good to celebrate your small wins because that encourages you to keep going. But if you don't track that and you have no awareness of where you're at with that, you might be more quote unquote successful than you think you're being, or you might be giving yourself more benefit of the doubt than you really should be. My third kind of thing that came up for me when I was thinking about goals to ask yourself is, what's going to drive you when you don't want to show up? And that's kind of what I just talked about with my mission, but what is going to drive you to do the things that you know you need to do and you know technically you want to do when you don't want to do them? Because pretty much any good habit or good thing, we really don't want to do it. Because if we wanted to do it, or if it was fun, or if it whatever, we would all be going to the gym, we would all be eating healthy, we would all whatever. But the thing is the hardest things in life do not come easy. And you are messing with yourself if you think that it is. If you think that just going to the gym every day for 30 minutes for 90 days is easy, I encourage you to try it. It's much harder than you can even fathom because it's something that I haven't been doing. And so it's hard to get that back into the routine, especially because I do have a very busy schedule. We all are super busy. We all have lots of things on our plates. And so what is going to be your motivator on the days that you don't want to go? I have a picture of me and my partner right above my microphone. So the days that I don't want to jump on here, I can look at that picture and I have my contract beside it and some affirmations around it. And when I look up, I'm like, right, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm playing for such a bigger game than just today's podcast, but I can't get to that bigger picture without today. And so remembering why I'm starting, why I began this journey and what that means to me, how much that'll be detrimental to my mindset if I were to miss 2 episodes a week now. I've created that momentum. I refuse to break that train. But it takes time to get that train rolling. So what are the things you're going to tell yourself? Maybe it's having sticky notes up of how that's going to make you feel. Creating a video to yourself is a great thing that you can do to hold yourself accountable. But what are you going to tell yourself? What are you going to do on the days that you don't want to do the things? Something to contemplate for sure when you're setting a goal. And number 4, how crushed will you be when you miss? So we've kind of chatted about that, and I just mentioned that with my podcast, but how detrimental is it gonna be to you if you set this goal and you miss it? Because here's the thing, if you won't care, do you really care about the goal in the first place? If you don't care if you miss, why are you doing it in the first place? And again, that loops back to question 1, why are you doing it? You can see how these are all great questions to ask yourself because we live in such a glorified world that surrounds goals, and we just think that goals are so fluffy and easy and whatever. But the thing is that we often try them and we fail because we don't have systems in place and we don't have the self-belief to follow through with them, therefore proving to ourselves we can't do things and not wanting to set goals. So never underestimate that a goal is easy or hard, but that it has to be in alignment with you. Today's episode is all about how small goals compound into massive movement, right? Because if we can't ask ourselves those contemplative questions, get to the truth, set up a system that works to do those small goals, we will not get to that massive movement. And I think that happens a lot, time and time again. And I want to reframe that narrative for you guys that I get it. You're not alone. I know that setting goals is hard. I know that getting up and doing the things is really, really hard some days. I know that going to the gym for 90 days is going to be excruciatingly hard, but I also know that I have the discipline within me. I have it within my heart and within my mind to do it, and I know how good I feel every single time that I do it. So also asking yourself that, is this going to make me feel good, this action, or is this going to make me feel worse? And the last thing that I want to do with you guys for today's episode is to take you through the SMART acronym, because maybe you've never heard it before. This was first introduced to me, I'm going to say 4 years ago. I learned about this for the first time when I was in university. And it really just clicked for me of like, whoa, like, okay, this is kind of cool, but I never really understood the deeper lying principles within that. So I'm going to take you through the acronym right now. So the first letter in SMART is S, as me and my mom used to spell it, and I'm sure lots of other people, SMRT. SMRT does not apply today. We have an A in there, which we will get to. But S stands for specific. Your goal has to be specific, right? Just saying, I want to work out versus I want to lose 5 pounds in 1 month, there's a difference there. It has to be specific. You have to be able to have something attainable to backtrack, again, that blueprint. But if your goal is too big and that you can't even really be specific in what it is or how you're going to get there, I encourage you to hold that vision, because again, I have a goal for what I want my podcast to look like, of course, but my short-term goals are what's going to get me there. If I remember my big goal when I show up, but I focus on my next step when I show up, right? So asking yourself those questions. Yes, it's okay to manifest and to think about a huge goal, a big accomplishment, whatever, but know that that won't be possible without putting in the work every single day. And so make it specific. Clear the fog, clear the confusion. If you have such a crystal clear vision of what your goal is, I want to lose 5 pounds in 30 days, amazing. There's no fog, there's no room for uncertainty or confusion because you have it very clearly laid out. And again, going deeper than that, that means, okay, I need to lose 0.2 pounds per day to accomplish my 1.25 pounds per week, therefore pouring into my 5 pounds in 30 days. So making your goals specific. The M, the next letter, measurable. What evidence will prove you're making progress? So this backtracks into the tracking, having a system. Having a system is crucial. How are you going to measure that? If again, your example is the 5 pounds in 1 month, you're able to check in and see, okay, have I lost week 1, the end of week 1, 7 days? Am I down 1.25 pounds? Am I on track? Am I off track? Am I showing up every day like I said I was going to? Am I eating properly like I said I was going to? Am I drinking water like I said I was going to? Am I sleeping like I said I was going to? You can really then begin to see how all these things trickle into one bigger goal, but without those underlying measurable things, you can really lose sight of what it is that's throwing you off, why it is you're not hitting your goal. And so what evidence do you have that will prove that you're making progress? And then with that, because you have that awareness, you're able to reevaluate when possible. You're able to reevaluate if you're off the right track or if you're just trying and failing forward and figuring things out as you go. You're able to revamp your goal. That's the beautiful thing about life is unless you have a deadline for another job or other people, you can revamp your goals as many times as you want, as long as it is serving you, making you happy, and pouring you one step closer to that chapter that you want to be in. So that is M. Make it measurable. It gives you new awareness, which then allows you to pivot your goal, which is huge. I never thought when I began this journey I was going to be doing 2 episodes a week. I was great with just jumping on periodically and chatting when I could. But as the journey progressed and as I kept showing up, it just kind of fell into my lap. And so here we are. The A, there is an A in there, isn't there? SMRT. A stands for attainable. If you're currently, again with the gym example, if you're currently not going to the gym at all, and then you try to go 7 days a week, you are going to burn yourself down to the ground. That is way too overwhelming for your system. Attainable means that it's within reach, but also out of your comfort zone just slightly. Because there's a difference between being in your comfort zone, in your learning zone, and being in your anxiety zone. Again, a framework that Next Level University taught me. Because being in our comfort zone, we're not going to grow. We can then go out of that one step and be in our learning zone, which is like, okay, like I'm a little uncomfortable, but I'm learning, like this is good. And then we have our anxiety zone, which is like, whoa, run, get me out of here. That would be like right now, if I switched to doing 7 podcast episodes a week, forget about it. I would probably fail, throw down the mic, I would have no sense of self-belief. It would just be way too far out of my comfort zone. And so make it attainable. For me in the beginning, 1 episode a week was attainable. For me right now, 30 minutes of exercise is attainable. Maybe down the road, I'll be able to up that. Maybe eventually I'll have more than 2 episodes a week. But for right now, that is what's attainable for me and is still slightly outside of my comfort zone enough that it pushes me because I'm not comfortable. So making your goals attainable, starting small and growing. Again, small goals will compound into bigger things, but you have to be willing to start small first. The R in SMART, relevant. Your goal needs to align with your values and long-term objectives. If your goal that you're setting does not align with you, your values as a person, why are you setting it in the first place? I really want you to ask yourself that the next time you set a goal. Is this relevant to my life, the life that I want to have, or is this just relevant to where I'm at right now, Saturday afternoon, sitting down with my journal? Asking yourself how it aligns with you. What does that strive you towards? How's that going to make you feel? How does that make you become a better version of yourself? How does that affect you? How does that affect your mood? How does that affect those around you if you accomplish that goals? Again, why do you care about it? Get clear, get relevant, make it make sense to you and only you, because you're the only one that it has to make sense to, especially if it's a goal for yourself, evolving personal development. So make your goal relevant and in alignment with yourself. The last one, T, time-based. This one is one that people get really, really trumped on this one. So you need to be able to set a realistic, ambitious end date for small goals. Because the thing is we need to be time crunched enough for it to push us, but not so short that you feel overwhelmed. So what I mean by that is you can't allow yourself just 2 years to lose 30 pounds. That's so just it's really, really hard to wrap your head around that, because you're like, okay, so I might as well put it off for today because I have another 2 years to get it done. So why would I take action today? Right? And I think we're all so guilty of that. We're just like, whenever it happens, it happens. But what does that mean? What is your deadline? And that deadline for a small goal. I know for myself, I need to have a certain amount of podcasts recorded in advance in order for me to feel comfortable to set me up for success to have 2 a week. You need to have enough short-term pressure that pushes you to do the things. Time-based, having an actual time that allows you to ask yourself, how long do I have to accomplish this? Which then allows you to backtrack of how much you need to get done on a daily basis. What can I do today that is going to push me 1 step closer to my goal for tomorrow? Working backwards. Again, 5 pounds in 30 days. And I see the number here that I had wrote down, finally the calculation. I was saying 0.2, but to accomplish losing 5 pounds in 30 days, you must lose 0.17 pounds a day. That is so much more attainable and time-based than just saying, I want to lose 5 pounds in a month. It's like, okay, are you going to lose 3 pounds at the very last week and 1 pound here and in between? Mathematics, I'm learning, and I've always told myself I hate math and math sucks and whatever. Mathematics and the probability and working backwards is the only way to be successful. It really is. And so when you have that number, you're like, okay, I can do that. Like, what are small ways that I can just hone down 0.17 pounds a day? I can eat less junk food. I can put in a little more work. I can drink some more water. I can maybe get up and take a couple more walks. And then you just start to feel like this sense of self-belief. But when you just hear like, ugh, I have to lose 5 pounds in 30 days, you can really begin to just give up before you've even tried. So set a realistic, ambitious end date. Make a time on it, stamp it down, and then reevaluate. If you get to that date and you haven't accomplished it, you can then look backwards because you're going to be tracking to see where you've missed. Have you been showing up? And if you have been showing up and you didn't accomplish your goal, that's okay. I had set a goal for how many downloads I wanted for my podcast, and I didn't hit it. But that just encourages me to keep going, to do something different, to pivot, because if you're not optimizing your goals and you're not crushing them, what is it that's wrong? What is it that you can shift and pivot? And again, this all comes down to our mindset and how we view quote unquote failing forward. It's not a failure if you try and if you show up. So the last thing that I want to close with for today is that motivation will come after you start. Just like that 2-minute rule. Momentum will begin after you start. Think about a car. Once you start the car, it's not moving. But once it gets momentum and it gets going, it's going to keep going until you make it stop. And that might have been a terrible analogy, right? But that's exactly what life is. We get momentum after we start. We don't get it before, because if we did, we wouldn't be debating whether we should do the things or not. So reminding yourself that the motivation is going to come after you start something. I did not have this much motivation to record podcasts when I first began this journey. In fact, I had every excuse in the book on why I did not want to record. Motivation will come after. The 2-minute rule. Focus on the first 2 minutes and see what happens. And the last thing, make your small goals so they lead into big goals. Make them so easy that you can't say no. So I'm just going to get dressed and go to the gym today. That's super easy. You can do that. No one's forcing you to lift any weights or go on the treadmill or do anything. But you'll find that just by getting there and showing up, you're like, well, I'm here. I might as well do something. Start small. It will compound. I promise you. A huge snowball starts with 1 flake. And that's because with 1% improvements, with a little momentum, with a little growth, you can be that snowball effect. But it does not start unless you consciously allow it to start. Have the belief, pivot, be okay with failing forward, and knowing that it's okay for your goals to change. It's okay to fail and not hit them. But it's what you do with that moving forward that counts. I truly, truly hope that this aligned for you guys. I hope that this encourages you to just reframe your outlook on goals. Reframe your perspective of just showing up, even just doing 2 minutes, and how that will snowball and incrementally push you towards your goals and the life that you want, but only if you put in the work, the mindset, and the desire to make it happen. Thank you guys so much for tuning into today's episode. This episode will be released a week after my anniversary. I'm recording today's episode on September 7th. I just want to say a big happy anniversary to Tiny Talks transitioning into Rewired to Inspire. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart. It would mean the absolute world to me if you guys could leave a review below, rate this show, share it with someone you think would enjoy. That is how it just fills my cup and just inspires me to keep going. I do have a global goal, as I mentioned today, to just spread my content, spread my learnings and just life experiences with you all through my voice, through this mic to your ears. Thank you so much as always. All the love from my heart to yours, and I look forward to chatting with you next episode. Bye, you guys. Thank you all so much for tuning into today's episode of Rewired to Inspire. I absolutely love connecting with you all, so make sure you're following me on Instagram. I am at JessieBrown13. If you enjoyed today's episode, please feel free to leave a review or share with someone you think would enjoy. I look forward to chatting with you all next episode. And remember, get out of your head and into your heart.